Mariana.
En 15 minutos,
Sí.
cuando termine. We'll have just the opening with our director, and after
Inaugural del Museo Digital, Futuro y Posibilidades. Me da mucho gusto que nos acompañen y quiero pedirles una sincera disculpa por el retraso en el comienzo. Tuvimos un pequeño detour y nuestros invitados estaban yendo a Chapultepec. Pero ya los tenemos a todos aquí, estamos muy contentos y voy a presentar a nuestros invitados que van a inaugurar. Mauricio Mayé, Fundación Televisa, Nidia Chávez de Fundación Telefónica y Graciela de la Torre del Museo Universitario de Arte Contemporáneo.
Muy buenos días a todos, a nuestros invitados extranjeros. Muchísimas gracias por su presencia en nuestro país y en este extraordinario museo. Seré muy breve. Creo que lo que nos interesa a todos es entrar en materia y poder iniciar esta discusión en torno a la tecnología en los museos y espero realmente que el intercambio de ideas pueda ser fructífero y pueda llevarnos a problematizar de una forma más interesante los dilemas que nos estamos planteando sobre cómo en los espacios museísticos debemos de utilizar estas herramientas. En Fundación Televisa tenemos un caso particular, tenemos una colección importante desde hace más de 40 años, pero actualmente no contamos con un espacio para desarrollar actividades, entonces generamos proyectos con diferentes instituciones en México y en el extranjero y en este caso este simposio es una de ellas, el buscar crear alianzas para discutir temas que consideramos relevantes para el ámbito de los museos. Entonces celebramos que esta reunión con el profesionalismo del MUAC organizado con una serie de panelistas muy interesantes, entonces estamos muy satisfechos de participar y esperemos que todos los invitados y participantes se sientan contentos de debatir en este espacio. Creo que no hay nada más que decir y celebro que arranque esta iniciativa. Muchas gracias.
Gracias por la palabra. Muy buenos días, bienvenidos. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarnos. Graciela, Mauricio. Nuestro agradecimiento de Fundación Telefónica al Museo de Arte Contemporáneo de la UNAM. De verdad que una excelente iniciativa y gracias por hacernos parte. Nosotros desde Fundación Telefónica queremos convertirnos en referencia en cultura digital e innovación. Nuestra filosofía se basa en fomentar una visión más digital de la cultura y en ofrecer una propuesta divulgadora de la sociedad digital, con un conocimiento integral de la cultura que combine la tecnología, la ciencia, las humanidades y el arte. Fundación Telefónica está presente en 15 países, principalmente en España y Latinoamérica. En el caso específico de nuestros espacios de arte, están presentes en España, en Perú, en Argentina, en Chile y recientemente en Ecuador. Fundación Telefónica, en el caso específico de México, promueve la colaboración con museos, centros culturales y otras entidades cuya vocación es promover la cultura digital. Queremos darle la más cordial bienvenida a este encuentro, al Encuentro Museo Digital, un espacio de reflexión, un espacio que permite compartir conocimiento y en el caso específico de México, aprender de experiencias de otros países. Bienvenidos, disfrútenlo, muchísimas gracias.
futuros y posibilidades. Sin duda, el modelo contemporáneo de museo debe centrarse en las audiencias de hoy día, cuyo perfil incorpora naturalmente a las tecnologías como su fan. Obtiene satisfacción inmediata en línea y socializa a través de la conectividad, por mencionar algunas particularidades de los migrantes nativos digitales. Consecuentemente, si el museo no quiere perder su relevancia ante estos públicos, debe contribuir a la gestión del conocimiento y a la experiencia significativa con las herramientas de diálogo, aprendizaje participativo y mediación propias del mundo digital. Debo confesar que sería en una conversación hace poco más de 2 años con Alicia Lebrija, a la cual representa Mauricio Mayé en estos momentos, me sugirió la inminencia de abordar el tema que hoy nos congrega, y que también, muy poco después, el presidente de Fundación Telefónica México, Francisco Gil, lo acogió con entusiasmo. El proyecto no podía haber encontrado mejores aliados. Hay que decir que Fundación Telefónica y su incansaron codo a codo con el MUAC para impulsar el estudio de campo, la preparación y la puesta en marcha del Museo Digital, como lo hace Telefónica en otras partes del mundo, en una simbiosis natural entre la Fundación, el arte y el universo museal. Gracias a Telefónica, hoy están presentes 40 especialistas de 8 países en las jornadas que nos congregan. Muchas gracias. Por su parte, Fundación Televisa montó un entusiasmo inequívoco para hacer posible la feria, que por cierto se inaugura allá arriba a las 6:30 de la tarde hoy. Mexicanos, españoles y británicos. La tarea, encabezada en el MUAC por Luis Vargas y por Claudia Barrón, no fue fácil. Incursionaron primero en Europa y después en Estados Unidos para emprender una investigación de campo sobre apuestas digitales, no solo en diversos museos, sino también en despachos de desarrolladores. Algunas de las personas que conocieron en sus viajes están aquí presentes para promover una revisión crítica de las experiencias en casos exitosos en materia digital y de públicos. Confiamos que las presentaciones, los estudios de caso, experiencias compartidas, animen a nuestra institución museística a incursionar y consolidar el uso de nuevos medios sin dejar de lado su mística, y a las autoridades a facilitar los presupuestos que hagan posible abrir este camino.
YouTube, MUAC en vivo, todo junto, así nos pueden encontrar. Pueden también compartir cosas en sus redes sociales usando el hashtag Museo Digital MX. Y le pido a Philip y a Jane que me acompañen para dar inicio al primer estudio de caso. ¿Podemos cambiar los personalizadores? So, what do you guys want to sit over here?
Yeah, or stand. How do you want to do it?
How do you like it better? I mean, it could be very formal. If you, or you can.
Yeah.
Maybe
I may stand up for myself. But just we'll hacemos escucha. Can we see?
Si ya lo pueden hacer.
Hi.
Bien, les voy contando un poquito de cómo está la dinámica de estos 3 días. La estructura del encuentro tiene 2 formatos principales. Los estudios de caso, como el que vamos a tener ahora sobre el Museo de Arte de Cleveland, y además hay paneles en un formato mucho más tradicional. Cuando pensamos en estudios de caso para la concepción del Museo Digital, lo que teníamos en mente era tratar de generar una experiencia de cómo un museo llega a contactar a un desarrollador para resolver una necesidad. En ese sentido fue que buscamos los casos más paradigmáticos o que nos parecían que contribuían de manera independiente al uso de las tecnologías, ya sea en el trabajo de las colecciones o bien en brindar herramientas distintas a los públicos. El primer caso que tenemos acá es el del Museo de Arte de Cleveland, que ha sido uno de los pioneros en los Estados Unidos en generar espacios estrictamente digitales. Jane Alexander, que es la directora de tecnología del Museo de Arte de Cleveland, y Philip, que es el director de Potion, un estudio en Manhattan, nos van a hablar de ARTLENS o Gallery One, es un proyecto paradigmático y en lo que vamos teniendo todo listo en la pantalla, los voy a ir presentando. So I will start by introducing you guys. Jane Alexander es jefa de información, and you're free to sit, y del área digital del Museo de Arte de Cleveland. Jane es la responsable de la estrategia, concepto, diseño e implementación de experiencias interactivas, aplicaciones backend y diseño de infraestructura. En el 2013, el Museo de Arte de Cleveland completó Gallery One, que es en parte de lo que nos van a hablar, y la revolucionaria aplicación móvil ARTLENS, la cual transformó al museo en una de las destinaciones artísticas más avanzadas tecnológicamente del mundo. Recientemente, el museo lanzó ARTLENS 2.0 y Studio Play, la cual usa innovación tecnológica para mejorar la experiencia del visitante, un visitante de cualquier edad, con la colección de museo. Antes de mudarse a Cleveland, Jane desarrolló y dirigió el aclamado programa de educación a distancia de la Universidad de Columbia, así como el desarrollo de recursos con alcances universitarios para la tecnología mediante instrucciones y metodología. Ha trabajado además como jefa virtual de tecnología para el Centro de Ciencia Great Lakes, así como arquitectura por la Universidad de Columbia. Por su parte, Philip Tiongson, fundador de Potion, es quien desde Potion supervisa la operación diaria que ofrece liderazgo creativo. Ha trabajado como diseñador de interacciones y desarrollador de software freelance, así como ingeniero en sistemas en IBM, donde desarrolló interactivos broadband para el grupo de tecnología avanzada de Internet de la empresa. También ha desarrollado interfaces web para videos interactivos en Imaginary Forces y servicios de streaming para videos musicales interactivos en nivelbox.com. Su tesis profundiza en Active Stories, historias interactivas que dan a autores y visitantes control sobre el contenido de la historia. Philip es maestro en Ciencias de Medios de Artes y Ciencias por el MIT, así como maestro en Bellas Artes y en Dirección en Películas por la Universidad de Columbia y licenciado en Ciencia Computacional, Ingeniería Eléctrica y Estudios en Cine y Tecnología. El primer sitio al que llegamos fue Cleveland. Y después de haber hecho con la ayuda de Claudio Barrón toda una exploración de a dónde podíamos ir, Cleveland parecía el destino casi final y por lo mismo el destino por el que teníamos que comenzar. ¿Qué había en Cleveland? Cleveland es un museo enciclopédico con una de las colecciones más interesantes de los Estados Unidos desde principios de siglo y que ha trabajado con los públicos de una manera insospechada, como ya nos va a decir Jane. Cuando preguntamos quién había hecho Gallery One en Cleveland, fuimos a visitar a los dos estudios que habían trabajado con ellos o que en ese momento estaban trabajando, que eran Local Projects, que también nos va a acompañar en el segundo estudio de caso de esta mañana, y donde tenemos a Eric Mike aquí. Y también en la segunda fase estaban trabajando con Philip en Potion. Así que la segunda parada fue ir a Canal Street, a las oficinas de Potion, a ver qué era lo que estaban haciendo. La idea de este panel es que conversemos sobre cómo nacieron las necesidades de Gallery One que detectó el Museo de Arte de Cleveland. Y cómo va a funcionar es que cada uno va a tener una presentación de más o menos como 20 minutos para después abrir la conversación, tomar preguntas del público y tratar de generar una experiencia lo más enriquecedora posible. Así que sin más, Jane, por favor.
Gracias. Hola. So we have so much to show you. Oh, it's being translated. We have so much to show you, so we thought it would be best to give kind of overview. I'm going to give an overview about the whole Gallery One to ARTLENS project, about sort of how the museum did it, why they're doing it, and then we're really going to focus on ARTLENS Exhibition, which we collaborated with Potion, and we're very excited about. Just opened officially in September 2017, so you're actually the first people to really see this project. So first of all,
You have to speak from the mic.
oh, sorry. First of all, this year was an exciting year in that we were completing the new iteration of Gallery 1, which is now ARTLENS Gallery. But we were also doing a strategic plan. And our director, I've been at the museum since 2010, and we've had 5 directors. I've had 5 bosses. And the new director, William Griswold, felt it was really important that it was a strategic plan that the entire executive team, which I'm part of, and senior staff, and actually every member of the museum was fully part of. So it was a very intensive process, and in doing that, we really looked at our mission, which is we are a free museum, completely free, and our mission is for the benefit of all the people forever. So I thought that it'd be good to I'm going to show a quick video of what our museum is really about and why we would do, and then we'll talk about the digital and why we're doing it.
Vamos a apagar las luces. And there's
Yeah.
So just click.
Bajamos las luces.
no sound.
So I really want to show that because the climate of what's going on in the United States and also what museums and what their value is really important to the mission. And how it's one of the reasons we decided to do another iteration of Gallery 1 is because we really wanted to make about tool sets that invite the non-traditional audience and get people closer and new ways to get into our collection. So the original Gallery 1 was quite successful. It was done by local projects. Eric was my favorite developer. We were really more about the storytelling and how people are going to get into this. And when the very first goals we came were to attract, engage, entertain, and connect to our collection. It was always about getting people into the actual galleries. And our building went through a lens of make a pose, and people were rethinking, is digital really important? And at the Museum and Web conference that was in Cleveland this past April, he said in the talk to the people who were on the tour that this was something that was important to keep going. So people also were like, why are you changing Gallery 1? There's still so many people coming in there, people are excited. And we knew at the time when I started in 2010 that this was a proof of concept. I mean, it had been an idea. It started very in the education department, but they hadn't really thought about how will this be sustainable, how will it be scalable. It was originally going to be called the Lifelong Learning Center, all different types of people. In this iteration, so what we did when we first created Gallery 1 is we really looked at the back end. And it was one of the reasons we changed vendors and started with local project was we said that we are going to have to be able to maintain everything. It has to pull from, we were in the middle of digitizing our entire collection. It's going to have to pull from our digital asset management systems and our content collection management systems, and it will have to be something that will continue to grow as the museum grows. And we know that hardware changes all the time, so we actually put a lot of energy into making things that could continue. So when we did decide to reevaluate Gallery 1, and so that it would be more scalable and we had learned a lot, we had done a lot of evaluations. We actually had a brainstorming session where we invited 7 of my colleagues from the Met, V&A, MoMA, MIA, and we also had creative artists and makers in the Cleveland area. And then we had people in the museum that weren't initially involved in Gallery 1. And we really brought together a full day session, which our director participated in, to find and really think about what's our new ways of thinking. After we had that session, we had a cross-collaborative team within the museum, from the exhibitions department, from the chief curator, from education, interpretation, technology, applications, and to really think about what is the pedagogy going to be about the central space of which would be ARTLENS Gallery, ARTLENS Exhibition, because it really had to be, and this was really important to the director, that you were going to walk away with really like an understanding of how to look at art. All the sort of art history 101 class, but all through game. So we knew we had to really focus on the pedagogy before we even decided what does this look like, what are we going to build. These are the new goals of the ARTLENS Gallery. They're not that different, but we just got more specific. And I'm going to move really quickly because there's so much. But our original Gallery 1 was as you come into the museum, studio play, then we have the Gallery 1 proper, and then we had our famous collection wall, and we had an app that tied it all together. In this next, we found a lot in that first iteration. People were confused what was Gallery 1. They heard about it, and they thought Gallery 1 was the wall. They thought it was the app. They thought it was the space where kids were playing, and they were at all times. And we have an app. All these things pull live from our backend system. So when something goes off view, or something changes, or a curator has a new title, it's reflected in the gallery, and also on online collections. So as I said, we now have a studio, and the studio is split in two. There's a part where you really can get looking at the details. There's a screen where you can reveal the next artwork underneath, and there's also the same screen every 5 minutes. It changes to a different game where you're an actual magnifying glass. We call it the zoom wall, because as your body moves, you zoom in, and if you bump next to someone, you zoom in together, and you already are looking at the details, because we had learned that studies had shown if you get into the artwork, you're going to understand the whole artwork better. And then the other side was about creating with our collection. We had our wall. Our wall is now going on like 6 years old. We really have done nothing to the wall. It is really beautiful. Every 30 seconds, it's a different. We've created new curated views of the collection in multiple ways, but then it always goes back to everything on view. And then it connects seamlessly with our ARTLENS app, which is now the big difference. It used to be RFID. Now it just Bluetooth, anything you like, it connects, and actually we now have used that through the entire ARTLENS Gallery. Any activity you play, it automatically saves to your favorites. And if it's taking a picture of you or you're doing something, it saves to your camera roll. Again, taking away you playing with technology, but just looking at the art. And then we have ARTLENS Exhibition, which I'm really excited for Philip to talk about. We started with the app because the app had every single object on view, and it also allowed you to save, favorite. It had over 900 videos when we opened. It a backend that's able to build upon. It is a wayfinding that takes you to any space in the museum, and it was the size of, it was the only app you could have on your phone. And it was also, it took about 10 minutes to download. So we loved it, but only 3 of us could use it. So we said we should re-engineer this. So we worked with local projects, and we really looked at it. And it really is, if you have, there's one thing, you know, download ARTLENS app. You can use it offsite, but also it has lots. It has, you can walk through any gallery. We have different objects. You hold it up, and it will scan paintings, give you hotspots, ways to look at it. It's really great. So, no. Oh, there it is. That's showing, okay, so that's actually showing how the app, it goes right to your camera roll when you make something. Again, you're not saving it, you're not typing your name in, it just goes right to your camera roll. No one even went into the museum because it's the first space, and then it also prevented people from going into Gallery 1 completely because they thought it's a child space. And it really was supposed to be an intergenerational space. So we re-looked at it and said, what is it that we could do to make sure that when a family goes with a 20-year-old and grandma, you know, that it's really successful. Because it also has to be maintained by itself, and this is sort of the daily experience. And although this is a fun space, you can find this at a library or other types of places. And we really wanted to bring something new to help families feel comfortable in our galleries. So I'm just going to show you our new studio play because I'm very excited about it. These are the new goals, and all of our decks will be available for everyone. That activity was the prototype of sort of getting rid of the touch screen. So, and after that opened, we did a mini evaluation because we were in the middle of starting the new exhibition space, and it was we were actually surprised how well it did. Our evaluation team, because we had a lot of young moms want the space with the blocks and the puzzles, and overall the museum thought visitors were saying they were engaging with our collection. And what's really exciting is I was actually in the space, and there was like an 80-year-old and a 6-year-old playing up that wall, and I was like, oh, is this your grandma? And she's like, no, we've never met, nice to meet you. And I was like, oh my, and the mom was over there at the wall, the other wall, playing with her son. But I was like, this is true engagement of looking at the collection. And then when you go in the galleries, I actually take tours of people, of museum people, and we're walking past something they made a collage with. And actually the other day, everyone stopped from Crystal Bridges Museum because the horse they had used was right there in the Chinese gallery. And we all spent time just looking at this horse. So it's been a really fun project. Meanwhile, we continued to prototype, and we thought, can we really take all the touchscreens out of the new exhibition space? So we used a wall that once had a painting, and we sort of did, we said people were being photographed, videotaped, and we had an evaluation team asking people questions and really getting feedback. And at the same time, Potion Design was working on how to tweak the system so that it was much more easy to understand how to start a game without any interface. And another reason we wanted to remove the interface is that we did find that a lot of people, if they're young, like they just start touching to figure out how the game works. And if you have an interface, it was exactly when we opened Studio Play, we were really excited, and we invited all the curators to come in, and everyone started to try to read directions and figure it out, and we were like, oh no, this is a disaster. And then we brought in a bunch of families and thought, people just start moving. If it's a good interface, you can figure it out after you've been sort of just moving around, then it works. And we wanted to have the same concept going forward. So we have added a whole lot of technology to understanding the analytics. We, in the first iteration, we were getting analytics on all the different interactives, but we didn't really know what we wanted to find out. And we now know we really want to know where people are. We really want to know how long are they really engaged and wanting to look at the art again. So we're in the beginning stages. We have the technology in place, but really, are we going to get the answers that we've been trying to figure out? The other thing I just want to call out is our beacon is now, it's everything that's happening in studio, in the exhibition, tours people are making. I actually saw a Kofefi tour up on the beacon with Russian artwork, Russian jewelry that was on view. It's a way to show people are, as they're doing things throughout the museum, it comes up on this wall. And this was designed by a small a firm called Dome Collaborative. And again, we picked them because was the lead designer from the initial Gallery 1 at Local Projects, and we knew that this would be the perfect project for her. I've shown this before in that we look at our entire, we have 36 application-based systems, from business systems to collection systems to internal intranets to outward-facing walls, apps, collections online. We have from the very beginning, and this has never stopped, how do they all integrate together so that we're pulling the right information depending on if you're in visitor services or if you're in advancement or you're in collection, but also how we can create interactive experiences that meet the goals of what we're trying to do. At the same time, we have spent, since this project, since we have all different different spaces built by different design firms, we have worked on standardizing and developing a back-end system with a API, a fully integrated middleware with standards, so that no matter what we build in the future, we can hire a firm that specializes in what we're trying to do, not in a firm because they'll understand our back-end system that was impossible to understand. So we've spent a lot of energy on doing that. And that I really stress is important to doing any kind of outward activity. So I just want to, just 1 second, talk about the pedagogy of the new ARTLENS exhibition space. That team really worked closely, and we looked on what are things that would really help people understand how to look at art and not just read the didactic. And we came up with composition of an object, so understanding if it's abstract or if it's geometric or multi-focused, and also the purpose of an object. They had an original purpose, an intent. We kept emotion and gesture because you can tell a lot about an object through that. And then we also had symbolism. And so instead of just having, in the original Gallery 1, we had an object in a thematic grouping, so it would represent sculpture or it would represent a painting. But this way now you look at an object and there's multiple, like it could be about purpose and symbolism, or, and so you'll see the object, and as you walk towards it, you'll see, we've actually flipped that the artwork is in the foreground and the projector is in the background. You'll see it, you'll walk towards it, the game will immediately start, and then hopefully you'll go back and look, but also you can play like abstract composition game with objects from our entire collection. And thus all of them are saved to your phone, and you can go find all those objects throughout the museum. We really feel like it's an intro to art class, and we actually had a Carnegie Mellon group come through, and they were like, oh, this is such a great way to explain composition. And to us, that was a successful comment. So the last thing I just want to say, we also are about sustainable and scalability. We always have somebody in the space, not only making sure that everything's working, but helping people understand the activity. Again, taking away another barrier. If you're a little bit confused that you don't understand what Bluetooth is, we help you turn it on so it can connect to the wall. In this case, it's a picture of the local project development team. So they're being told how the wall works that they don't know, but they were just there. So here's a quick video of it, and I'm going to hand it over
to fill up.
This is the exhibition. Exciting. All right. Hi, everyone. Good morning, and thank you for having us. So Jane just went through the entire project, so I don't have to do anything. I can just unfold a little bit of behind the scenes. So today I wanted to really talk about sort of why. I think Jane really unfolded everything, but what is the purpose of getting people to engage, So I want to do a little experiment, okay? So everyone has to wake up. Everyone look up for your phones. Okay, are you ready? Okay, here we go. Okay, that was 2 seconds, all right? Everyone got that? All right, we're going to do that one more time. Okay, that was 15 seconds. Now, the reason why I wanted to have everyone look at that is because that is the amount of time people look at these pieces of art. People look at artwork for, on average, less than 2 seconds. They look at the Mona Lisa for 15 seconds. Why? Why do people spend so little time looking at art? And so one of the questions that we ask is, what are the reasons this happens? When you look at the Mona Lisa, it's pretty crowded in there. So I don't know that I would want to spend more than 15 seconds here. But, it is comfort. It is, do you know what you're looking at? Do you know why you're looking at? Do you have the tools to understand and to want to look closer? So in ARTLENS Exhibition, which is the part that we've inherited and that we're sort of taking to the next step, this was the original gallery. When you've seen these pictures, Eric, you recognize this place. You can see there are interpretation stations sort of placed in front of artwork. They were designed to be a lens you look through. I'm going to show you what we've done now. So here, the artwork is actually free in the center, and the interpretation is pushed out to the sideward. We've designed the sight lines so that you see the artwork and then interpretation behind it. The walls are designed so when you walk up to them, it gives you a choice. So now, the emphasis is to bring the artwork to the center. Look at the artwork, and when you see the artwork that you're looking at on the wall, oh, maybe I want to know more. So, can we equip visitors with tools to look more closely at art? So, I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to run through a bunch of tools. Now, you are museum people, you are my people, so I'm going to give you everything that we've got. And I could give a 3-hour talk on this, so we're going to move really fast, and we're going to break some things. Okay. So first, get close. So the idea that you can get close and you can, just by walking in, we begin the engagement. Pointed thing, the idea that you're teaching people, this is, when people point at this piece of artwork, it reveals interpretation. So you look at the artwork, you use your body to interact with it, and you find things. This artwork, what we're really is underlying composition. So here, can we find the structure that's underneath it? This is what's invisible to most people, but can we show them and reveal that? This is interpretation created by curators and by educators, and then put it into the space. Okay, so turn that down a bit. All right, this is a piece of artwork that basically we're giving them a model, and then we're allowing people to become an artist. We're allowing people to try a technique. But then we take the barrier away of having to actually compose, and we repeat the pattern. We create patterns and color palettes that reflect what the original artist was doing. And then we allow people to explore what it would be like to begin to think that way. And where the art, you can't see it, but right on her forehead, we're actually placing a piece of artwork in real scale on her body. And then we're giving her the chance to wear it. This is a piece that you would never be able to touch, much less see yourself in it. Here's a piece where when you are looking at it, we can actually put your expression into the artwork. And then we give you a version of the artwork you would have made if you could have been the one composing it. Here, we are allowing people to look for and try to match the symbols, again, identified by curation, identified by interpretation. And then we allow people to successfully determine if they are understanding what they're looking at. Here's famous strike a pose. So strike a pose, what I love about strike a pose and what we're trying to do is allow people to do it a lot because people like it. So here she's by herself, her friend wants to do it. Now we're allowing people to start doing it together. So now we begin to move back, and here now people are in multiple people's we have multiple people socially interacting. And what's interesting is that they're getting better, aren't they? This is a succession as they are doing multiple artworks. And now when we look at their accuracy, this is the last piece. We see they have begun to really begin to embody what are the poses that a sculptor or that a painter are trying to create. And I love like right here, you're going to see they high five in the background. They're excited. There's engagement here. They're excited to understand this. That's right. Here, just kind of an idea. When we take away the single, 60-inch touchscreen and create a space in which people can play, they can engage art together. They're talking, they're sitting on a bench, they're texting, but they're also looking at art. This is an interactive that I'm really excited about because we use gaze tracking, some new technology. So basically, it starts like this, and someone can put their phone down, they can actually get the results of this test. And so here they're calibrating, and they get a chance to look for artwork. So we did the same test, 15 seconds that I did with the Mona Lisa. You look at this piece of artwork, uninterpreted, there's nothing there. And then we begin to play back where you look. We show visitors where they're looking, how they're looking, and we begin to unravel, we begin to decode a little bit of how is the artwork actually performing. The artwork designed, the artist chose the composition, all of the elements of that painting or artwork to draw your eye around it. And so we are actually able to show visitors that effect in a way that they couldn't see before. Here, oops, sorry. Go back. So here's the beginning. Where did I go? Here. There. Okay. So this is one of the last pieces. Here, what we're doing is actually you're using facial recognition to show you the emotion that you are feeling when you look at a piece of artwork. And so what we do is we show you a piece of artwork, we ask you to have a reaction, and then we categorize those reactions. We actually show you the artwork and whether you were happy when you looked at it, whether you were confused or sad. And then we allow you to take a GIF of that. So now you, this is a video, a video of your reactions. And you know, now we can actually reflect a little bit back of how people feel. And so in this, since 24 August, we've had 29,000 reactions to artwork. So we've had people be able to look at artwork and react to it. You know, 10,346 artworks as of this moment, people react to with happiness, which I think is pretty exciting. At the end of that process, you get a mission. So again, we're sending people to see the artwork. We're sending people to pick up what they saw based on how they reacted and to go look at it in the museum. Finally, I think not only seeing yourself in art, but also really beginning to be able to take it home. So what we do is we generate artifacts so that everyone who is doing these pieces has something to hold on to. So that was everything that we were doing for the visitor. Now, what do educators and curators need? So what I think is the biggest, one of the biggest successes of what we are creating is putting tools into museums' hands. So first, the idea of relating physical artwork to digital. I will say many museums are afraid of putting digital and physical in the same place, actual artwork, because they are afraid the digital will somehow distract or take away. It's our hypothesis and our finding that by putting them together, you engage two different kinds of looking. A looking at the artwork, and then a looking at to understand, and then often to go back to the artwork. If you put them in close proximity, then you engage more of a person's looking. Free the art. So this area here is now completely flexible. Before you saw the way that the lenses were set up, fixed artwork in certain positions. Now, this is designed to be refreshed every 18 months. New, relevant exhibitions. Exhibitions can change in the way that traveling exhibitions should. This can now be redesigned completely. It will look completely different in 18 months. And that was one of the key things that we had to build into the space. This is the attract sequence. So this is sped up, but what we're doing is this attract is also, it looks like motion graphics, it's all generated because it's being generated out of the back end. So they can drop in any artwork into this attract sequence. They can ask these questions. In order to do that, they had to create a whole photogrammetry process. So now the museum owns the technology and the ability to create 360 4K photography for all of their artworks, for any artwork they want to put into this system on the attract screen. Playing with scale. So this artwork is actually this tall, right? When you saw it in the other photo. So when you are using digital, you don't really recognize, oh, the actual thing is very different. But what's cool is that digital, you can see things much bigger, or much that are too big for the screen or too small to touch. You can blow those things up. So we want to take advantage of that aspect, but then tie it back to the real artwork. Ultimately, you need to know that statue is this tall. This, to me, is really the crux of it. The old label, this was the tool for the old label. You know, you write, you type. The new label is going to have to be a system. So we created systems to generate all of the interactives that you saw. So for the wearing artwork, you have to place this piece of artwork on that body. Curators can now do this to show people where they should go. When we scrubbed off the shape, here's how a curator or an educator creates that shape that then is then shown to the visitor. This is the new label. The new label is more than just text interpretation. It's actually visually unlocking the kinds of things that you would unlock in conversation. In a conversation, you would say, oh, look at this curve. Or, you know, can you see the triangle here? When you're using a static label, you have to choose one moment to do that. Here, you can actually interpret any number of artworks. So, and now we're sensing the visitor in a different way. This is how we know when people walk up to artwork. This is how we were doing the gaze tracking. So this is the prototype. This was the very first moment we got this to work, where someone is looking at a piece of artwork and we can show them. Here, you know, we're just prototyping. Can we recognize someone's facial expression as they look at artwork? And then this, to me, is as I said, we turned over the entire making process to the museum. This is a 60-page manual for how to create all of the data and the metadata for each of the interactives. So we generated 16 different interpretive platforms, which now can actually take input from the entire digital collection of the museum. So they can choose any of those artworks, and with this manual and with those tools, create their own new ARTLENS exhibition. So for ARTLENS exhibition, here were sort of all of the pieces that we did for educators and curators. In my mind, curators and educators need programmatic tools to make digital exhibition spaces sustainable, relevant, and engaging. So by creating these tools, this is, I think, one of the most important things that we did, which half of it is all below the surface, but it's what makes the stuff that the visitors experience so good. And how can we equip people with tools to look more closely at art? Our goal is we are teaching visitors how to look closer at art and giving them tools to use for the rest of their lives. This, really in any museum, everywhere. This is the reason why art history applies to so many things, is that this gives you literacy. And so these techniques, we are sort of Trojan horsing. We're planting them in games, but we're giving people the ability to flex those muscles, and we'll take them everywhere. So back to Mona Lisa. So 15 seconds actually is a long time, but how are we doing? So I can now say with our analytics since August, you know, we've had people explore 25,000 artworks. That's about 37 artworks per hour in this gallery. For Gaze Tracker, people have looked at 3,900 pieces of artwork. That's 76 seconds of engagement per artwork. They are actually deeply diving. They are looking closer at this artwork. The prototype evaluation. 6.5 artworks viewed on average. 88% reported feeling more comfortable. 70% reported looking at the art closer because of it. 9 minutes of engagement per visitor. Again, we're asking people to spend more time and we're giving more back so that they can have deeper engagements with art. And what's most important is, are we now sending people back into the museum? 94% said they wanted to see this art in person. Some are interested in seeing them, some are seeking them out, and some plan to use the skills, so they're conscious that they have learned something and want to use those skills in the galleries. So coming back, I think this quote from the director, art tells universally relevant stories precisely because they are the embodiment and expression of the human experience. What I appreciate about this is why we are asking people to spend more time with art, because of this. So I wanted to say thank you, and I hope that you all get to come to Cleveland. We're going to post this up. Everyone's invited.
Podemos tomar 3 seguidas y nuestros ponentes responderán. But first, I want to, so would you prefer to make the question in English or Spanish?
Well, why don't you say both?
Okay.
Oh yeah, we have
Sounds
the translation.
Algo que nos sorprendía de Cleveland desde el principio, cuando hablamos tanto con Jane como con Philip, era el énfasis que tenían en lo pedagógico. Y en Estados Unidos hablar de lo pedagógico, de lo didáctico, es un poco inusitado, porque en inglés hablan más bien de lo educacional. Y lo pedagógico implica otra dimensión de cómo se entiende el proceso de aprendizaje y de experiencia de los públicos. Cuando llegamos a ver el estudio de Potion en Nueva York, nos sorprendió que en el equipo de Philip estaban desde luego la gente techie, los programadores, pero habían gente con perfiles híbridos que venían de la historia del arte, de la educación, y sobre todo el nuevo empuje que tenía el proyecto de Gallery Ones y ARTLENS era mucho más orientado a lo educativo. En términos de las tecnologías, y esta es la pregunta que tengo, sí hay cambios. El body mapping se instauró como una nueva tecnología comparado con lo que había antes. Creo que también el gaze tracking y otras cosas que mencionaron. Pero fundamentalmente el énfasis está en eso que llamaban lo pedagógico y incorporar la visión del educador y de los curadores a todo el proceso. En ese sentido, es que quiero plantearles una pregunta que es: ¿de qué manera Cleveland es un paradigma para compartir con otros museos? ¿Cuál es el futuro que ustedes ven de este proyecto que es Gallery One ARTLENS en términos de involucrar a más gente, de involucrar una nueva manera de trabajar en los museos, donde la tecnología es un facilitador, es un medio, pero no es el fin en sí mismo?
Well, that's a great question. I will say, when I came in 2010, we were not thinking that way. We were very much about this is an education project, or this is a technology project, or this is, and my excitement in my past has been to always work with really the experts in each of the areas to push each other and make something amazing. So this second iteration, I think local projects had it harder the first time because we were still figuring out what is that.
It was pretty hard.
It was still, I didn't say it was easy, but because people come from other museums and they have a sense of this is what education does. This is what interpretation does. This is what a curator does. Curators aren't allowed to help with interpretation. Interpretation isn't allowed to, to me, I've done a lot of work, and I have to say I'm very excited about the team right now at Cleveland. We have curators who are asking to be on the next iteration, like begging to be part of it. And we have an interpretation team that, like I lead every 2 weeks. This paradigm goes throughout the entire museum for exhibitions, for different digital that's going on, for different projects. It's not just ARTLENS Gallery. So I think that it's really hard because also a lot of people sometimes want to do the whole thing, and that usually is not going to get you where we're at. So we really do have a cross-collaborative team. I can finally say it's truly, and the head of collections there, well, yes, we do. Because when we were picking the objects that and design, and then we have infrastructure and back end, but I would say 75% have an art history degree or are a fine artist. There is a reason they're working at the museum.
And I think that what makes this process so challenging is this idea of a truly cross-collaborative team. Now, when you have curators and AV integrators sitting at the same table, you also need tremendous leadership. I will say that right now, that you need support from leadership. Now we have, I've lost my slide. I was going to point at the director. You need support from the leadership of the museum, but also, I want to say a champion. I mean, Jane was the champion for this project, and having someone who can work with you need all of the expertise, but you also need someone, or a team that wants to make this happen and has a vision for it. And so for my team, I don't want to take credit for the work that we did, because my team was a large team of designers, technologists, producers, content creators. And it is the combination of both the diversity of the team, but also a real commitment and a real vision that everyone can build towards that makes something like this possible.
And I will say in honesty, something would happen at a meeting and I would call Philip and say, okay, we have to strategize to get this new person on the team to understand that's not where we're going. And it is hard when people come from other institutions. They have no idea how we're trying to push this to another level. So it was a back and forth a lot, but I mean, my role really is always to keep, I brought up at multiple meetings the goals we set and the pedagogies we picked. Because as you know, we could get going, what about narrative? Why don't we have narrative? What about scale? Why don't we have, like that would, and then I'd be like, this is what we've spent time figuring out. And it did bring in scale. I wanted to have a scale game, but we were like, but we did think about it at the end of every object, it shows its original size. And that was actually a really good thing to add to the project.
But, just to show the cross-collaboration nature of that. So, okay, someone has an idea about scale. Oh, we need to include scale. Now, okay, when we go back to the museum label, the label has the dimensions of the artwork, not the scale. It doesn't have necessarily, especially for an artwork with a base, so you have multiple pieces of the artwork. So now you need to have someone go measure the artwork, which is in design. You need someone to record the resolution.
In collections.
In collections, you need someone to record that into the CMS. You need to then take that information, and then we need to, on the technology side, interpret it properly. So design determines the size of the projection. So then by the physical size of the projection, that changes the scale in which each pixel is displayed. So we need to find out how big these pixels are to be able to show it at actual size, right? So that goes from good idea to execution. But everyone in that process actually had to participate to make that possible. And you can imagine, going back to the collection, not every artwork has that kind of information in it. So now they have a process to add it. So as they begin to build out more exhibitions, they know how to add that information back into that process so that every game can show scale.
Great. That takes me to the next part of my question. So how do you see Cleveland experience having an impact in other museums or being replicated?
I still feel strongly that museums need to collaborate together on back-end standards, how we're collecting information, what type of, that scale was a perfect example. We were like, we have no time to add anything to this project. But then we liked the idea. But then even when we figured out the process, it was more complicated than we thought because different people measured, using the frame, different people, it really was a lot more complex. So I'm a big believer that the next steps are for museums to get together. And and really start to hammer out standards so that we can create interactives and that we are using the same types, that we're building the same APIs, or our back-end systems are pulling the same information. Because people always are saying, is it open source? Is it open source? And open source is important to a point. You still need a developer on your team. You still need to interpret your data. You still need to be knowing that the workflow is going to be able to go through the museum to make it happen. I mean, it's such a tiny part to really, so I think using this is the possibilities, but working backwards to the back end, I think that's where Cleveland has an impact. I also think that because we use innovation and we work with top firms like Potion and their credibilities to come and see how those outward experiences, that's what's going to be different at each museum, is the outward experience. But the behind the scenes, I think we can put our money and energy together to build systems or standards that everybody could use and make it easier to create these visions.
That sounds very promising.
Great.
Do you add something? Or should we?
No.
Okay. Vamos a tomar preguntas. Vamos a tomar 3 seguidas. Les pido que nos den su nombre y sean breves, por favor, al formular su pregunta.
Hi.
No se escucha bien. ¿Podemos cambiar el micrófono?
His mic isn't on.
¿Ya me escuchan? Ya. Soy Alfredo del Museo de Arte Carrillo Gil y la pregunta es un poco para Philip. He estado viendo que todo el proceso que llevaron alrededor de estas tecnologías que implementaron en el museo son como de índole de realidad aumentada, ¿no? Estas cuestiones con Kinect o cuestiones con Face ID,
Yes.
todo este tipo de cosas. La pregunta que va es, ¿ustedes llegaron alguna vez a pensar en VR, en Virtual Reality?
Oh, yes. Okay.
Porque el principal componente de su tecnología es que la gente socialice alrededor del arte y del museo. Y siento que tal vez el VR lo que hace es como privar la experiencia, ¿no? O aislarlo. ¿Pensaron en ello o lo intentaron? ¿Y por qué decidieron o piensan que VR tiene alguna oportunidad ahí?
So I have a whole other talk about that, actually. But in short, VR technology and AR technology, I think there are opportunities to employ it, but in social, large-scale situations, it's just not there, right? You can't share, and one of the reasons I wanted to show the social aspect, how people can do these things together. Once you put a VR headset on someone, they're away. They might as well be in a room by themselves. So we are looking at those techniques. How can we immerse people with projection? How can we get people to see augmented reality? But what the technique that what I would like to say is we're using mixed reality in this gallery. In my mind, this is the first truly mixed reality art exhibition, in that there is digital interpretation that is for every piece of artwork in the exhibition, and it is mixed with digital and physical relationship between them. There's been a lot of digital interpretation in gallery. I don't want to say that there hasn't been digital intervention, but here it's really been integrated from the beginning, and we're trying to achieve some of the effects that you might do in a headset, but for everyone, whether or not they have headset or not.
And I'm just going to jump in and say that, people always ask that question, and ours is really about looking at the art, engaging at the real art. As you can see, we keep removing more and more hardware. And so their device that everyone already is bringing with them, we say, okay, you're still going to need your device. You still want your device. So that's why it seamlessly saves your favorites, the artwork. That's why it's there. So you can have it, but we don't want you looking at your device as much as we want you looking at the art. So everything about this was about the art. That's why the art's in the foreground. That's why we don't have any stuff you put on or something you rent. I mean, we have iPads to give out if you want a phone, but a device, but it really is about looking at the art.
Thanks.
¿Había otra pregunta?
Sí.
Ok, vamos acá.
Por acá.
Ya tienes el micrófono.
Ya tengo el micrófono.
Alejandro.
Alejandro García Guinaco, de Taller de Museografía. Jane, Phillip, gracias por su plática. Yo tuve la oportunidad de estar en el museo y estuve en Museums on the Web en mayo. Y tuve la posibilidad de probar un poco de los recursos que ustedes estaban probando. Y después estuve haciendo el recorrido y me pasó una cosa. Se me acabó la pila. Y entonces no sé cómo se está implementando esta nueva propuesta y esta tecnología aplicada a los teléfonos. Y eso me lleva a una segunda pregunta. ¿Cuál es el promedio de visitantes que tienen en el museo y qué porcentaje de esos visitantes se baja la aplicación o utiliza la aplicación? Gracias.
Okay, so when you guys came from, I was just telling Nancy this morning, I so wish that Museums on the Web was last week and instead of in April, like we had swapped MCN for MW, because we were in the middle of also finishing the app. So I know that tour was also like led by, it didn't have the latest updates and things like that. But your first question, if you ran out of battery, is that what you said? We do, so in the wall area and everything, we do have places that plug in your phone. You don't have to have a cord or anything. You can just, we have Android and iOS. If you have something special, then we have plugs. And since the new iteration of the ARTLENS, we are now like at 8% download. We have about 630 visitors come a year. Our new mission, our new strategic plan is to have 1 million and to have 5 million digital outreaches, being the app, our online collection, and whatnot. The only way we could get people to use the app is to have it download in less than a minute, to have more content. So one of the things we didn't know that local projects, also the whole new exhibition section, any game that's in the museum, throughout the collection that's part of the exhibition, like so we have 200 make-up poses. All that information that comes up in the gallery, that also is now on the phone. So we've seen an increase by making the technology easier, and but our goal is that not everyone needs to use a device when in the museum, but it's there, and it's also there to favorite when you go home. You can listen to the videos about the objects you played with, but the app from the beginning has been designed for 3 behaviors. You know, the people who come once a year, the people who only like a certain type of art, like Impressionists, and then the wanderers. The people wander around, they're having a good time. Oh, what's that? They can hold it up, and hotspots pop up. So that's our philosophy, and that's how we're continuing to address the app.
Y quizás solo para contextualizar un poquito, los porcentajes de usos de las aplicaciones en distintos museos que nosotros hemos visto, por ejemplo, el Museo de Arte de Brooklyn, que tiene una de las aplicaciones más interesantes que se llama Ask, el porcentaje de uso es del 1 al 2% de visitantes. Nosotros, para Nish Kapoor, con la aplicación, tuvimos sobre el 7 u 8%. Esos son los porcentajes más altos, porque también supongo que responden a un tipo de público específico. El porcentaje que nos da Jane es altísimo en el campo de las aplicaciones y los museos. Ya nos va a decir Tate qué porcentaje tiene después. ¿Tomamos tu pregunta? Por aquí, en medio. Ah, sí, perdón. No, te necesitamos para el streaming, con micrófono. Ok, tomamos esta pregunta, pero aquí tenemos otra, por favor. ¿Sí? María Antonia.
Gracias, soy María Antonia González. Gracias por la presentación, muy interesante, genera mucho entusiasmo y nos deja en un estado de ánimo expectante. Y por la misma razón quisiera compartir un par de preguntas críticas que me hace pensar, y no necesariamente en términos conservadores, de hacernos la pregunta ¿qué es el arte y qué relación tiene esto con el arte? Y querer ir hacia atrás, bueno, no sé si hacia atrás, hacia la experiencia directa con el objeto, o tratar de salvaguardar la entidad del objeto como objeto, sino pensando que en el mundo contemporáneo estamos llenas de información por todas partes y que la tecnología se convierte en un dispositivo perfecto, en cierto sentido, para transmitir la información. Podríamos ver esto como una interfaz muy bien generada para poder transmitir la información de manera interactiva y mucho más amable que con el mero texto en la pared, pero lo mismo podríamos ver en una escuela de medicina, por ejemplo, o lo mismo podríamos ver en términos de simulaciones en la ciencia, es decir, que lo que tenemos son dispositivos tecnológicos que facilitan el acceso a la información y que como queremos saber muchas más cosas de las que de primera instancia podríamos tener, parece que tenemos una mirada que se fascina ante las posibilidades de la tecnología, sean usadas en el ámbito que sea, ya sea en el arte, en la medicina, en las ciencias, y de ahí podríamos seguir a, si yo me pregunto cómo se hacen los zapatos y tecnológicamente tengo un dispositivo que me va explicando cómo se hacen los zapatos, seguramente quedaré fascinada ante las posibilidades de conocimiento. De ahí entonces que sea interesante.
Capacity to react to art or to engage with art. We're not looking to standardize reaction. I think that the hope is that, especially for new audiences, to provide structure. I mean, if you think art history classes, are too pedagogical, then, this is probably not the right type of interpretation. But for what we are hoping and what we want is that if people spend more time in proximity to art, their experience of the art directly will go beyond whatever we begin in gallery, in the ARTLENS Gallery. That the number of reactions we weren't looking to make people happy. We showed people art and recorded how many smiles we saw from looking at that artwork. We didn't tell anyone, look and do these things. We said, show us what you feel, right? And so if I reflected that there were 10,000 pieces of artwork that made people smile, that was a reaction to that. That wasn't telling people you must have a reaction to one of these things. So I think that there's various ways to look at how these tools provide structure, provide support as an entry point, not an end point.
Yeah, I just want to jump on. It's all about an entry point. Just to remember the audience, we're trying to engage people that don't think museums are for them without alienating the people that already come there. And so we really are creating experiences that give them new ways of looking. And it's funny because when I saw that slide, I was like, one of the things that we talk a lot about is that people at art museum, the object that interactive is sort of starts off with is this huge Frank Stella, and it's big and smoke. It's like people love it and they hate it. And we purposely picked that object to start the how do I feel, because we know you have different feelings towards art. It was just a way to kind of show that you can have different reactions to an art, and then it groups you with how other people felt about that artwork and what was sort of sometimes the intent of the artist. And and in all those missions it says, now go look at the real artwork. Do you feel like, one of the missions even says it wasn't love at first sight, if it shows that you made a distasteful taste. Go look at it from a different angle. How do you feel now? Like, tell us how you feel now. Is it still the same? So it's all these things are about getting people to have different ways of looking, not to standardize behavior in a museum, but to actually get people into the museum. This is a free museum with one of the top collections. We should be able to get 1 million people easily, but it's still a challenge because people's perceptions of, I don't know what to do in an art museum. I don't know how to look at art.
Buenos días.
It's an important question. Thank you.
Buenos días. Soy Lourdes. Colaboro en Museos de Ciencia Interactivos de la Universidad. A mí me parece, bueno, primero felicidades porque el resultado que ustedes han obtenido es a todas luces exitoso. Y me parece que atreverse a reinventarse resulta estimulante. A mí me gustaría preguntarle a Jane, en esta metodología de lluvia de ideas que inició y detonó todo este proceso, con colegas de museos de arte que seguramente compartían la problemática y las inquietudes, ¿qué obtuvieron de invitar a otros colegas en un proceso que inició ahí, ¿no? Con una lluvia de ideas, porque pues el punto de partida es atreverse, reinventarse y orientar los esfuerzos con una visión totalmente distinta si se quiere obtener un resultado diferente.
That's a great question. And I'm going to say the list of people I want to invite, I still had to have a collaborative team, and I had to bring the team in baby steps. But having a science museum and having actually, as you people that were using technology in medicine, I mean, that actually was people I wanted invited. Actually, if I had enough money, I had a list, you know, a huge list of people that wanted to be part of it. The reason we kept it with art museums is all the art museums we invited were completely different. They all were trying to engage digital in some way, and we didn't want to start. We knew it was only a day, and we actually only focused it on the lenses, the current lenses in Gallery 1. People had to do homework ahead of time, and what we spent the entire session on was just games, because these games have to speak to, you know, a 6-year-old, and it has to speak to a 99-year-old. It has to speak to someone who has a lot of art history information, someone who has no information. So how do you create games? Because we did want to do it through, I call them games, but, you know, short interactives that wasn't about reading. And so that's how we got to that group of people. I did try to go wild with the, like, I invited a security guard to the brainstorming meeting. We had, I mean, it was hard because people had been on the team were like, why aren't we at the brainstorming meeting? And it was like, we can't have the same people. We have to sort of, if we're really going to brainstorm, we're going to have to reach out. But you're right, it would have been, so it was a baby step with the museum. That we were having this was that we invited a security guard. That was like 2 meetings of discussions, so, you know.
Nos estamos quedando ya cortos de tiempo. ¿Quieres hacer una última intervención? Do you want to make a last intervention? So, because we are about to close.
Sure. I mean, first, thank you for letting us show the work. I am definitely interested in, you know, honest, critical feedback on all of the work. It's the only way that we make things better, how we reinvent ourselves. You know, we've had the opportunity to be a second look at some of these questions, and so we've been able to take it a step further, but this is just the beginning. You know, I think that's what I really admire about the Cleveland Museum of Art. That's how they continue to lead, is continue to push themselves, to look at their successes, to look at their critical opportunities, and to continue making. And so, you know, that's what we try to do at Potion, and we were honored to be part of this project.
Yeah, and Potion was amazing. Like, Philip's amazing. I would call with sort of things I felt really nervous about, and we would really work out solutions all the time. So Philip and his team was amazing, and thank you very much. I also want to just say that this is just the beginning. This new exhibition, I'm very excited to see when we change the exhibition, how this really works. Is it really scalable? Can I leave the museum and it continues to like really thrive and look at new innovation? And maybe virtual reality will have a different, you won't need headsets, or like, who knows? But we're always looking at what's going to help the experience. And the exciting thing is these objects go back to their galleries. They go back, that gem goes back to the Mughal Indian gallery. And so we feel that these are the first objects people will have seen for the first time, and they're going to go find them in the galleries and then have a whole new experience of seeing that gem that they might have walked right by in its you know, home, in its cultural home. So there's lots to kind of see where this is going, and it's a constant iterative process. Potion was really good at being thoughtful to the pedagogy, but really what I was concerned of, making the tool sets that we can keep growing with the museum. And thank you so much for having us. This was a pleasure.
Para seguir a tiempo con el programa, les pedimos que no se tomen más de 5 minutos. A las 11:30 empieza el siguiente panel con el caso del Museo de Walker Art Center